earlier this year. I was home. My daughter was working on the project, and we for Girl Scouts for her Gold Award. And when they got done, a couple of our friends were over, and they asked if they can shoot the BB guns in the backyard. So they were shooting BB guns, and I saw the time I left to go drop something off at Boy Scouts. Why I ran out to the Boy Scouts, the meeting was canceled. Meanwhile, my daughter had to go to the bathroom, went upstairs, and her so-called boyfriend went inside to use the downstairs bathroom. Apparently, he went upstairs and attacked her and raped her, but because there was no meeting, I came home and I got there in the middle of the rape. Now, I'm disabled. I'm a Persian Gulf vet, and I'm disabled from the war. I heard her upstairs screaming, "Stop, don't, stop." And so I yelled up to him. I was downstairs in my room, and I'm telling him to get out of my house and stuff. I heard him run out of the house and get going. After I heard him slam all the doors in the house, I ran outside, gathered all the guns, and her girlfriends all left. I came back into the house, and I got her cell phone from her. And that time frame that all this stuff happened, her friend, the boyfriend or whoever, was texting her, "I love you, I love you, I love you. Don't call the police," all this kind of stuff. And I kept on trying to tell her we had to go to the cops. I called my wife, telling her we had to call the cops. In the time frame that we're trying to get my daughter, that it was rape because he forced himself on her, I saw that he was texting my daughter, and all he kept on saying is, "I love you, I love you, don't do anything, I love you," and confusing my daughter. My daughter has a disability.
Do you have paperwork from Christiana that...
They have it.
Who has it?
The
state police?
The state police has it, and then they said they went through, they interviewed her. When she said she had a disability, he held up his hand and goes, "No, disabilities don't count in this issue." And she's trying to say that she has central auditory processing disorder. If you ask her 3 questions, she's only going to answer the third one because she's not going to remember 1 and 2.
So at this time, I go into the house, I start trying to call my wife, telling her what goes on, and I'm trying to communicate with my wife. My wife was working at the Boy Scout camp, and so she was down there, which has bad cell zone, and and then I get a phone call from the kid's father, and I told him that he raped my daughter and that I'm pressing charges. And meanwhile, the house phone's ringing with him calling my daughter, telling her that he loves her, and I'm on the phone with the boy, his father, telling him that we're pressing charges. To be honest with you, I don't know what time the phone call was because I was kind of like distraught because of all the stuff going on. I wasn't aware of most of the time frames. I was still trying to call my wife and get a hold of her because the phones, like I said, the cell phones weren't working. Finally, they get a couple messages. She got a message apparently, and
they texted me and said, "Oh, I just found out what happened. I'm so sorry. It's just a shock to me." His mother, his stepfather was, saying, in the background saying, "Don't do anything. We'll talk about it on Saturday," because she was supposed to watch their animals.
And we never called the police. The police showed up. I then tried telling them about the rape and stuff. The police told me that it wasn't a rape. He was invited. I kept on trying to explain. The 2 cops started telling me all these different stories. Now, what they did is they lined up on both sides. They kept on, I'm trying to tell them what's going on, and they kept on twisting everything that I was telling them, and they kept on telling me their side of the stories. Then what happened was, what's actually recorded on my arrest report is actually what they said, not what I said to them. And they actually twisted everything. Now, I'm a severe asthmatic. Like I said, I'm disabled from the first Persian Gulf War. I only have 20% use of my lungs in contaminated air. And I don't have full use of my right leg. And so the cops start giving me a hard time. Then they dragged my daughter out. They wouldn't let me back in. They wouldn't let me have my medicine, right? They wouldn't allow me to have anything. This is the state police, Troop 9.
In Odessa.
In Odessa. There's only one officer out of the whole group that was even nice to me. right? They then pull my daughter aside after they're twisting everything I said, and then two officers pull her aside and start screaming at her on the side of the house. You wanted it, you consented to it, you wanted it, you invited them here. And so there are two officers screaming at my daughter on the side of the house, telling her how she wanted it. Finally, she said yes to one of the questions. Now, the question was, he was invited to the house. Yes, originally he was invited to the house to work on the project. They were working on her boxes.
Girl Scout.
Her Girl Scout Gold Award project. There was a whole group of them. But that wasn't what the yes to any of the question. My daughter has a disability. She can only answer one question at a time. You have to ask one question. You can't stand next to her and scream multiple questions. Not anybody can do that. Well, they kept on doing that. No, nobody read us the Miranda rights. I still haven't been read my rights. They then handcuffed me and then started shoving me down the hill, and they told me, we're going to tear your house apart if you don't cooperate with us. And they're screaming and yelling at my daughter. My daughter's busy screaming and crying because they're abusing me. Like I said, I'm disabled. They're shoving me and all kinds of stuff. They're refusing to give me my medicine, and then they're going around to the side of the house. I tried getting my daughter to calm down, then they started screaming and yelling. So they turn around, they go into my house with my daughter, and they take my off-duty weapon, which I had on my bed. And they, meanwhile, shove me in a squad car and take me down to Troop 9. And after that, it's only whatever my wife said. And I was having a severe asthma attack. I was semi-conscious and having trouble breathing and begging for my medicine the whole time, and they refused to give it to me.